channel. So I'm wearing the same outfit as my previous videos, and that is because I'm recording the same day as my previous shit, so my bad. Anyway, I'm here to talk about the 10 things I loved about Singapore. And as you know or may not know, I used to live in Singapore for a year, and that was because I was doing a study abroad program in Singapore, which my university was partnered with Nanyang Technological University. Big up to NTU, because they're actually like a really amazing university, and apparently they're like basically one of the top universities worldwide and one of the best in Asia. And I did not know that, because initially my heart was set on going to Korea, but there wasn't enough space for me, so they were like, do you want to go to Singapore instead? And I was like, why not? I'm already planning on being away for a year, so it doesn't really matter at this point. So I went to Singapore with zero plans, zero expectations. So the things that I saw and experienced was kind of like, it kind of hit me like a truck, because I was not ready, I was not prepared. Stuff like, you know, like the weather and the climate. For some reason I thought it had 4 seasons like the UK. It did not. It's more like Africa, 2 seasons. You got hot and wet and hot. That's it. But anyway, down to the list. So the first thing I love about Singapore is like they speak English. So they have 4 official languages: Chinese, Malay, Tamil and English. And everyone speaks English, which is great, because me being from London, it meant I can be like every other Western foreigner everywhere else other than their own English speaking country, and you speak English. So I went to Singapore, and my first day was kind of scary and overwhelming. That I was exposed to Singlish, which is kind of like a mixture of like English, Singaporean slang, which is mostly like Malay, Chinese, mashed up together kind of thing. And when I heard Singlish for the first time, I kind of like panicked, and I stayed in my room for like a week. Like I avoided going out for the longest time. But when I finally got out and actually spoke to people, I realized it wasn't too bad. Like Singlish wasn't that difficult. So like when they say las and laws and ma, I was like, oh, okay, cool, don't get intimidated, don't get scared by it. So I just kind of like learned to like pick it up, and then sometimes I actually drop my las into my sentence and everyone just tells me to shut that up because it sounds so cringy. But yeah, like I managed to like carry on my life in Singapore without having to like, you know, learn a new language, which is really bad. But yeah, and that leads me to my second point. Because like they have 4 official languages compared to the UK, where you just speak English and that's it, so you don't pick up anything. I made more effort to learn Chinese. So Chinese is one of those languages where I was in a point where I was like, I'm never gonna learn Chinese. Like that's it, mic drop, bye, peace out, bye. Never gonna learn Chinese. And the reason why I thought that was because Chinese just seems like a harder language to learn compared to like any other like language in Asia. So I was like, I'm never gonna learn Chinese, but I did learn Chinese, and frankly I found it easier to learn to speak and listen to Chinese than doing that with like Korean and, you know, Japanese. But I know no Japanese. I have been studying a bit of Korean, but that's about it. So yeah, third one, which is also a major one, is Singapore is like a hot hub in Southeast Asia. So once you're there, it's like easier and cheaper for you to travel all around like Southeast Asia. So I know it's like an hour to get to like Thailand from Singapore, an island to get to Kuala Lumpur from Singapore, and again like Bali. So like I've been to Bali when I was in Singapore. I went to Malaysia like 5 times when I was in Singapore, like 5 times in a span of like a year. 5 times. And yeah, Bali was one of those countries where I thought it was kind of cute, but I was never gonna like, you know, go. It's like if I've got money, but like once I was there I was like, well, Bali's like literally like not that much money. Like I think it was around 60 to 80 quid depending on what time of the year you book your flights to go to Bali, and just jump on a plane and you go there. And also the 4th point, my next point is Singapore is so small, which is kind of like a double-edged sword, but I think I like this fact that because it's small, it means it's easier for me to get around and actually see all the aspects of the places. So for example, like I've lived in England for how many years? since 1965. I'm joking. But I've lived here for so long, and I haven't even seen certain places in England. So, for example, I've never been to Stonehenge. I've never been to, I don't know. But I've never really seen it. I haven't seen a lot of places in England or in the UK, to be fair. But in Singapore, I got to go to like all the different corners of the country. I got to see all the touristy stuff. I got to see like the parks, Marina Bay, botanical gardens. I got to go to Universal Studios and what's the next spot? I used to like even Sentosa Beach. So I used to like, I went everywhere, so I got to see everything. So I actually loved that. And 5, food is so cheap. I love the food there. There's something for everyone. If you're vegetarian, don't fret it. They got options. If you're pescatarian, they got options. If you love to eat meat like me, they've got your options. Like, there's food everywhere in Singapore, and it is so cheap. So like, my parents went on like in September last year, and they were like, really, it's so expensive? I was like, nah, it's because you guys chose to live like kings and queens. If you guys are on a budget and you go to Singapore, you can find like cheap foods and cheaper alternatives, and you can go to hawker centers where you can get like local delicacies, and it's super duper cheap, yo. Like, I remember like sometimes when I was like really broke and struggling, like, you know, broke back harder, I literally could get like a healthy meal, like an actual rice dish called economical rice, which is what they call it over there. So you get like a rice base, and then you can choose whatever toppings for like less than £2.50 or whatever. Like, it's actually really good and really cheap. Like, god damn it, like, ooh. And that leads me to my next point. You don't need to cook in Singapore. Like, we didn't even have like a proper kitchen where I was staying in my hostel. We only had like a pantry, and they had like those electric cookers, and if you want to cook, you can cook. And I think like I only cook like a few times like my entire time in Singapore, but it just meant that I could just eat out because it was cheaper to eat out than it was to eat in. So there was a lot of times where like, if I was too lazy to cook, I don't want to cook, I just wanted to eat, I could eat for like I just ate out like all the time, and it was cheaper for me rather than going to like, even if you wanted to go KFC or McDonald's, it just played out cheaper than actually, you know, buying your own burger, buying your and everything, making it at home. It just seemed cheaper that way. But then there were times where I was homesick where I did cook like, you know, my own food, but that was another story. But it wasn't too bad. Like, you were fed. Next point, my 7th point, is traveling within the country itself. The reason why it was so easy for me to like see everywhere in Singapore was because it's cheaper to travel within the country. It's also like the MRT and the train system and the buses as well. They are so ridiculously cheap, yo, girl. So I live in London, and London's one of the most expensive cities in the world, believe it or not. So for me to get to like central London from where I live, and that's like northwest London, it costs me like around £3.10 just to get into the city one way. So that's £3.10 to go in, £3.10 to come out. That doesn't include if I want to take a bus like within London to get to where I'm going. So it's really expensive to like travel around London. But Singapore, like, you can go from like point A to point B, literally like east to west, like the whole thing. So that's like, for example, where I was staying in Jurong West, which is like basically the very far west on the campus, to like the airport on the very far east of the country, and you don't pay anything more than $3 Singaporean at all. Like, I think it's like really cheap. It's like $1 something or $2 a max, but I don't think it reaches up to $2, and it's so ridiculously cheap to get around in Singapore. Buses are ridiculously cheap, trains are ridiculously cheap, and my bank account was out here breathing compared to London, where it's always like, girl, trying to get where? But it's really cheap. And then also they have cheaper options. And I think I want to make this one my next point, 8, because I think like it deserves at some point. Grab. So Grab is like their version of Uber, but better. Like, they used to have, according to my understanding of Singapore, they had Uber in Singapore, but like, because I remember when I arrived in Singapore, like, I tried to open an Uber, like my Uber app, to see if I can get a taxi to go anywhere. There was no Uber taxi like at all. That was because Uber does not exist in Singapore. because Singapore has their own version, and it's pretty much the same in like most Southeast Asian countries. So like I know they have it in Bali, they have it in Thailand, I believe, in Vietnam, and I know they have it in Malaysia, and they have Grab. Grab is like Uber, so like you can call a Grab, which is a taxi, and you can get from point A to point B for next to nothing. So for me to get to uni, I live in, again, Harrow, northwest London. To get to my university in Hertfordshire, Hatfield, it takes me like half an hour going to like 40 minutes, and it costs me anywhere from like £33 to £37 here. But for me to get from like point A to point B in Singapore, again like east to west, exact the distance of the country, it takes me like 20 minutes, 40 minutes max on the thing. On like a Grab taxi, I don't pay more than like $26. And 26 Singaporean dollars is, I'm going to put the price because I'm not sure how much that is. I'm going to put it here. So I think that's like less than like £20 or so, or £20 around that. So it's really cheap, and I'm not even complaining. Like, again, my lazy ass love to take Grabs everywhere. So there was that. And my 9th point is like, it's warm and sunny like all the time. So like, yeah, there's like times where it's like rains, like it was rainy season, don't get me wrong, but like it's really sunny and it's really warm. And because of that, like, you get to do more things. There's enough, like, it's always like good Instagram weather if you're into that kind of stuff. And like, you get to explore more because it's not really bad, it's not cold, you don't have the excuse. And yeah, there's that. Like, my last point is, I think the diversity aspects of it. So they have like people from all over, like they have like Indians, aka Tamils. I'm sorry if I kind of like messed it up and people will get annoyed, I'm sorry. You got Tamils, you got Chinese people, and then you got Malays, and you got the foreigners like myself. So most foreigners in Singapore that you see are mostly white, but I was like a 5'5" black girl with braids, and there were times where I had like, actually not even times, I had colored braids. I had like pink, I had blue, I had purple, like I had different colored hair. And obviously when my natural hair was out as well, I had my little afro, like it was different. And I felt well received in Singapore compared to like other countries. Like in Korea, like I got stared at a lot, people tried to touch me and people took pictures of me. And don't get me wrong, that did happen in Singapore. Like people did again stare at me, try to take pictures of me, and they were like, damn girl, can I take a picture? Or they just took pictures of me up front. But like, I wasn't offended by it. I actually liked it because I felt loved. Compared to the UK, where like I walk out my house and no one really gives a shit who I am. When in Singapore, like people actually wanted to be friends with me. People were more curious about where I came from. People would ask me like, can you say water? And I was like, what's up? Water. So it was really good. Like I actually enjoyed, and I actually loved that aspect of it. Like I loved getting to be like a little ambassador to like Singaporeans about being Sierra Leonean, about being British. So I used to talk about like where I was from a lot, and I got to explain like my culture and like me and where I was from like, you know, to Singaporeans. And I actually felt really welcomed. Like I didn't feel like I was an outsider. I didn't feel unwanted. Like people were generally very friendly. I had like my #1 fans, like the waffle ladies in Canteen too. Like I see you, I remember you, and till the day I die I'll actually remember you guys, because they were really nice and they used to give me like free stuff. They'd be like, oh my gosh, you're so pretty, I love your hair, can I take a picture of your hair? They used to give me free, you know, free little sun, and I felt like a celebrity. I felt like a celebrity. So I was like, damn sis. So I actually really did enjoy that. So yeah, those are like 10 points that I love about Singapore. And I used to complain a lot when I was there, but it wasn't that bad. But actually I really do miss Singapore, and like I really hope to go back sometime soon, hopefully after the pandemic's over. But you know, corona in it. But yeah, those are my 10 points about why I love Singapore, and I hope to see you guys again next time, where I may talk about the 10 things I dislike about Singapore, because boy, even though I said a lot about the things that I love about Singapore, there were some things that got to me, but that's the next time. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like, to subscribe, and to comment. what else you want to see me talk about. So yeah.